Here we're going to see the simplification of the square root of 4x multiplied by 3 times the square root of 72x cubed. And all of that simplifies to 36x squared multiplied by the square root of 2. Well, we start with this expression. The first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to separate the square root of 4x into the square root of 4 multiplied by the square root of x. That's a property of the roots that I can use. When two numbers are being multiplied in the radicand inside of the radical sign, I can change that into the multiplication of one number times the multiplication of the other. Now the square root of 4 is 2. So this term gets simplified into 2 multiplied by the square root of x. Now, if I look inside here, I can rewrite the 72, I can factor it as 36 multiplied by 2. So these two expressions are equivalent. The only difference is that now I have, first I had a 72, and now I have a 36 multiplied by 2. The other thing that I'm going to do is take the x cubed, the x with the exponent equal to 3, and I'm going to factor it into x squared multiplied by x. Both of these expressions are the same. If you multiply x squared times x, it is x cubed. So this becomes 36 times 2 multiplied by x squared multiplied also by x. The reason I do that is now I have on the inside of this radical sign, on the radicand, I have a 36. And 36 is the same thing as 6 squared. 6 times 6. So remember, if you have a number with an exponent that equals the grade of the roots, you can take that number outside of the radical sign. And in this case, you have to remember that the square root is a root of grade 2. So I have a root of grade 2, and I have a number with an exponent 2. The square root of 6 squared is simply the number 6. So this 36 becomes a 6, and I can take it outside of the radical sign. It goes outside, and I can multiply it later by the number 3. And the same thing happens with the x squared. The square root of x squared is simply x. So this x squared simply becomes an x outside of the radical sign. So now what I have is 3 multiplied by 6 and also multiplied by the variable x. So 3 times 6 becomes 18, and the x is just the letter x right here. So now I can write it as 18x multiplied by the square root of 2x. The next step that I'm going to take is to separate the square root of 2x into the square root of 2 multiplied by the square root of x. And what I can do now is start multiplying this term with this term. First thing that I do is I take the number 2 and I multiply it by 18. 2 times 18 is now 36. And now I can multiply the square root of x with everything in here. And what I multiply is the square root of x times the other square root of x that was inside of the parentheses. Now I have the square root of x multiplied by the square root of x. That simply equals x, because I have the square root of x squared, and the rest, this square root of x squared, which is this, is simply the letter x, the variable x. Another way that you can do that you can visualize it, is to remember that the square root is the same thing as the exponent equal to 1/2, or 0.5. So you can say that you're multiplying x with an exponent 0.5 with another x with the same exponent, also 0.5. And when you have two numbers that are being multiplied with the same exponent, what you do is that you add up the value of the exponents. So in this case, this multiplication becomes x with an exponent of 1/2 from one x plus another 1/2 from the other x, and 1/2 plus 1/2, or 0.5 plus 0.5, is simply x with an exponent 1. And as you know, any number with an exponent 1 is the same number. I don't have to write the exponent 1. It's like multiplication by the number 1. So x with an exponent 1 simply becomes x. And now what I'm left with is 36x multiplied by the square root of 2 multiplied by x. And now I take this x and multiply it with the other x that I had in order to get 36 multiplied by x squared multiplied by the square root of 2. And that is the simplification of the exercise. The square root of 4x multiplied by 3 times the square root of 72x cubed equals 36x squared multiplied by the square root of 2.